Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
They're taking on their responsibility. Like, if they want to do that, then they should be open and okay with the fines that could come with it.
It's unfortunate that I had to miss out on full-time employment because transit just doesn't work. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had something like this happen.
Unfortunately, it's not great news. We're predicting a 5 to 7% increase in the price of food products.
We begin tonight with breaking news. CBC has learned Ontario is dropping its tentative plan to end its vaccine passport program in mid-January. It will also require all proof of vaccination certificates to include QR codes. The measures are to be announced on Friday, but a senior government official provided the details in advance. The official also said there are no plans to shut down the province's schools before the winter holidays 1 week from tomorrow. Let's turn now to a Windsor bar and restaurant that is facing criticism after an online post shows what appears to be a blatant disregard for COVID-19 protocols within the facility. The restaurant, however, says it is doing everything it can to follow public health guidelines. Jacob Barker.
A video posted online shows what looks like a regular party at a bar on a regular night, but as we all know, nothing is regular during the pandemic. Rules for bars and restaurants are clear. When you're standing and away from your table, mask up. In this video from inside the Bull and Barrel, it's clear not very many people are doing that. There's also no evidence of staff enforcing the rules. CBC has spoken with the owner, Matt Comsa, before in September. At that time, he was objecting to a curfew imposed by the health unit. Today, he refused our request for an interview. Instead, Comsa sent a written statement from his company, which offered no explanation about the content of the video. It says, in response to the video uploaded to social media, WKND Hospitality has followed the Reopening Ontario Act since its inception and will continue to do so to the best of our abilities. It goes on to say that only double vaccinated customers are allowed in, strict customer tracing is done at their establishments, and customers are reminded to wear their masks when they're not eating or drinking. Everybody we spoke with today was unimpressed with what they saw.
The thing I noticed there is there's lack of enforcement by management. If they know the rules, like I've been there, service is great, never had a problem with the servers, but when you see something like that, I mean, if we got to enforce the rules there because we can get shut down, everybody in the downtown area needs to play fair.
What about the business owner that's letting that happen?
Yeah, they're also equally responsible because they also allowed the people inside the store or the bar without getting masks.
That's ridiculous.
Why?
Because things are getting worse again.
Yeah.
It's going to affect all of us.
Does that upset you at all?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm an old guy, 61-year-old. I can say, I don't like it.
He should get a fine. He should get shut down for a while. They have to do mandatory COVID checks. You got to have a mask. And if you get up to go to the washroom, you have to have one. If you go outside, you got to have one. But that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
We did follow up with the Bull and Barrel owner to ask how, if they are enforcing the rules, this happened, and have not received a response. We don't know if this incident led to the bar being fined. However, the health unit says it's given out 98 COVID-19 related charges since January. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
In Chatham, Kent, some people opposed to extra COVID-19 restrictions took their protest to the home of the local medical officer of health. Dr. David Colby was home Tuesday night when protesters showed up unannounced with strobe lights and hurled vulgarities in what Colby describes as a very quiet neighborhood.
Nobody would like that at their residence, but my job is to take care of the health of the people of Chatham, Kent. And I do my very best to do a science-based and good job at doing that, and I'm not the kind of man who gives up just like that.
Shame! 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 Shame!
Among those protesting was Liz Valle, a People's Party of Canada candidate in the last federal election. Valle has been critical of vaccine mandates and other public health measures during the pandemic. She was also charged under the Reopening Ontario Act after a handful of anti-lockdown protests in the municipality and is set to go to trial. The group said it served the doctor with liability papers at his door. Dr. Colby says the papers were not legal documents. A Windsor woman says she couldn't accept a job offer, and she says public transit is mostly to blame. It's a story one councillor calls symbolic of an underfunded transit system. Chris Ensing reports.
Tara Brasso relies on public transit, a way of life that just cost her a job.
Going through the interview like anybody, it's nerve-wracking. But then to be offered the job and then have to worry about how I'm going to get there was devastating. So, I mean, yes, I was proud of myself and I was happy that I was offered the job, but I, at the same time, couldn't even be happy about it because I knew I couldn't get there.
The gig was 7 kilometers from her Riverside home, but the commute would take longer than 2 hours every day using Transit Windsor and Tecumseh Transit. She's asking for changes.
So I would like to see routing changes be made. I feel that a lot of their routes aren't relevant to popular destinations, and it's unfortunate that I had to miss out on full-time employment because transit just doesn't work.
Brasso says she depends on a service that doesn't work for her. It's something Transit Windsor Advisory Committee member and City Councillor Rito Bordelin has heard before.
Well, to me, that's emblematic of the exact logic and reasoning that as to why we do need to invest in transit at this time.
Transit Windsor has recommended upgrades in the proposed city budget, new buses, a new software system to develop better routes, and making a pilot project route between Devonshire Mall and St. Clair College permanent. The budget also details a semi-express route that could help riders like Brusso. It would connect Tecumseh Mall to the Lancer Centre, called the spine of the Transit Windsor Master Plan, a key building block for other routes and service increases. It would cost $1 million. Staff say it's not recommended. Bordelin, who says the service is woefully underfunded, disagrees.
We hear over and over that, ridership is down, and people have suffered because of the pandemic, so we can't increase taxes. And yet, this is the actual time we do need to invest.
It absolutely does not work for me.
Council will consider that when they look at the budget on Monday, but that's too late for Brusso.
The city needs to look at the city as a whole and maybe look to expand their service areas. That would really help me. I mean, obviously not now because of, what I had to go through, but maybe in the future, if not me, somebody else.
Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Additional help is on the way for auto workers who lost their jobs when the third shift was cut at the Windsor Assembly Plant. Unifor Local 444 has received $200,000 from the province. That money will keep the Worker Adjustment Centre at the union office running. That was set up earlier this year to help those laid off workers.
This is a good evil is what it is as I look at it. We like to have everybody employed. Unfortunately, we don't right now. So the reality is it helps people that, need some help and some assistance and moving forward and different career options potentially. And, until we can get that third shift back to Windsor Assembly.
Initially, both the province and Stellantis gave the union money to operate the centre for 1 year. The funding ran out 2 weeks ago. And according to the union, the centre has helped 695 workers so far. 600 have found new jobs and 95 have gone back to school. The new money will keep the adjustment centre operating for another year. Hundreds of tractor trailers cross the Ambassador Bridge every day, but last Saturday, one attempted to cross carrying 246 pounds of cocaine. The dollar figure for that amount of drugs, $12 million. The truck was intercepted by Brantford police and two 22-year-old men from Brampton were arrested. They're facing charges for importing cocaine into Canada and possession with the intent of trafficking. Police officials say they worked with Criminal Intelligence Service Ontario and believe the drugs were intended to be distributed in Brantford and nearby regions. The cost to feed the average Canadian family is expected to rise by about $1,000 next year. That's according to the annual Canada Food Price Report. Pandemic-related supply chain issues and severe weather are listed among the reasons. And as Nisha Patel reports, it's leaving many people struggling to put food on the table.
Nicola Moore knows how to stretch her grocery budget.
I understand food insecurity because I've suffered it myself.
For the single mother of 3, stocking the fridge this year took a lot of energy.
Worrying about where your next meal will come from and will it be filling and healthy for your kids.
Food costs are rising thanks to high energy prices and supply chain disruptions. Climate change-fueled wildfires and droughts also have an impact, all issues that are expected to drive prices up further in 2022.
Canadians will have to get used to higher food prices. We're not going to go back to how things were.
Facing sticker shock, more shoppers are looking for sales and are cutting back on pricier products.
You're going to have to make different decisions, both at the grocery store and at the restaurant.
Wages haven't kept up with inflation so far. That means food affordability across the country could get worse.
Food bank visits have increased by more than 20% since 2019, a trend that's likely to continue in the new year.
Toronto chef Jagger Gordon says the pandemic pushed more people to the edge.
We just basically have seen so many people come to us and through other programs that say we need help.
His answer, starting a pay-what-you-can grocery store. It offers food that businesses would otherwise waste, like imperfect vegetables, and gives more fresh choice than a traditional food bank.
We divert food from landfills and we put it back onto the tables of millions.
Moore says programs like Gordon's are essential, but so are long-term solutions like higher minimum wage.
I think there's a huge population that is one paycheck away from getting evicted, one paycheck away from not being able to pay their bills.
And she hopes these conversations will spark a little food for thought. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
This is a hit that folks are already feeling here in Windsor. Our Darren DiCarlo went out to a grocery store to see how customers are reacting to these ballooning prices.
I didn't get anything and I spent so much money.
How much, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you spend today?
I already went to other store, but I already spent $100. And nothing.
Yeah, for some people that are having a hard time making ends meet and that, I can see it being pressured on them and that.
I don't know what to say. It's just, I know it has a lot to do with the trucking and the supply, but everything's just gone sky high, everything.
The increasing grocery prices, has that changed the way you do groceries this year?
No, it doesn't change the way I do it because I'm lucky enough to have a pension.
Right.
Couple pensions, but people who are on fixed income, I don't know how they survive.
To learn more about how families can cope and the future of food prices, we spoke with one of the lead researchers on this report.
The problem with higher food prices is that they severely impact those on lower incomes. And those typically are women, Indigenous people, people of colour, who have to spend a higher percentage of their income on food relative to, say, higher income people who will spend a smaller percentage of their income on food. So it's not great. There's some things that you can do practically to reduce your food bill. Restaurants, we're predicting a 6 to 8% increase. Try to eat out less, try to cook more at home. I know it's busy with people getting back in the offices and being time poor, but restaurant food's expensive. Be a little bit smart about the way that you buy food. Look at flyers, buy up when there's specials, freeze what you don't eat. I think a great investment for reducing your food costs is investing in a chest freezer where you can freeze food that you're not going to use rather than throwing it out. And with 5 to 7% increase in vegetables, particularly when we think around winter, things might even be higher. Frozen fruit and veg. The frozen aisle. There's good quality, highly nutritious fruit and veg in those aisles. They may not look or taste as good as the fresh, but they can be just as nutritious as the fresh, or even more so. The biggest increase in some of the categories of food that we've predicted unfortunately, is due to climate change. Increased feed costs are coming from droughts. We're predicting higher vegetable prices because of La Nina weather patterns in Arizona and California, where we get a lot of our vegetables from over winter. And those La Nina weather patterns typically mean a drier, warmer winter over there. These things are not short term, but we are seeing shocks in the food supply chain because of COVID, and I think some of those will be smoothed out into the future, where if we can get back to where inflation is lower, then the price, typically the price of food inflation also decreases.
Back to COVID now. As cases rise, the local health unit says we have people dying who do not need to die. Currently, Windsor-Essex has the third highest case rate in Ontario. Today, 109 new cases were reported. Since August, 42 people have died due to COVID-19 in our region. 30 of those were unvaccinated. Those who have died and were vaccinated had significant comorbidities, such as cancer or previously having had a stroke. The Federal Auditor General has released new reports on Ottawa's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. They point out two key failures over the past year. The government did not enforce pandemic protocols for travelers or temporary foreign workers. CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian has the details.
If they're going to put in a requirement, they really do need to have worked through how to monitor and enforce that requirement.
And that's a criticism on multiple fronts. The Auditor General's office says the Public Health Agency of Canada failed to set up an automated way to verify if air travelers returning to Canada were complying with mandatory quarantine orders, and was only able to check up on the whereabouts of a quarter of them.
I'm concerned that the agency is unable to show us whether or not these border measures are effective border measures.
The agency also didn't follow up on nearly 60% of cases it referred to law enforcement for non-compliance. All this just days after the Omicron variant had Ottawa mandate most international air travelers test and self-isolate pending results, while passengers in airports say they don't have the capacity to do all that.
As the Auditor General has noted, the government's response has been far from perfect. We acknowledge this and we are making no excuses for it. We can and we must do better.
Health isn't the only department targeted by the Auditor General. It also found Employment Canada failed to keep temporary foreign workers in the agri-food sector safe. Employees complaining of a lack of food if they were in COVID isolation or not being given adequate space to keep 2 meters apart. Government inspectors relying on the word of employers.
Rest assured that we will do better to ensure that bad actors are punished and that temporary foreign workers have safe and healthy workplaces.
This was actually the second time the Auditor General found problems with both quarantine hotels as well as the safety of temporary foreign workers, saying she's disappointed some lessons learned have yet to be implemented as the world approaches the second anniversary of the pandemic. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Hi, this is Sarah Van Grinsven here at the River Lights Winter Festival in Amherstburg. 'Tis the season for giving, and that's where the CBC's Sounds of the Season annual food drive comes in. Please visit cbc.ca/Windsor to donate today.
All right, we've got a special weather statement that we need to tell you about. It's in effect for tomorrow night. Heavy rain and strong winds are on the way. They're going to continue into Saturday and into Saturday night as well. So we might be getting up to 45 millimeters of rain. Colette Kennedy is keeping an eye on all this, and she'll be with us right after the break with your full weather forecast. Colette Kennedy is here now for a look at our weather forecast. Colette, I know that there's a special weather statement in effect that I'm sure you're keeping an eye on right now.
Yeah, we have so many things going on. I mean, there's what's happening right now, the special weather statement, which is for Friday night and Saturday. And then in between, we're actually going to have some good weather. So a lot to kind of work you through. But I want you to know where that kind of corridor is that you can actually enjoy being outdoors. So for now, that temperature is above freezing. Now, we may dip a little bit still, but then primarily we'll find as we get towards the morning hours, the temperature will be steady or actually coming up a little bit. So we may drop a little bit from this 3 still to come, but you can see that kind of mixed rain now pushed off to the east. It's some light snowfall beyond that where the temperatures are still cooler, but even then it's like a dusting to some cases 3 or 4 centimeters, so not a ton here. And with temperatures rising, even the areas picking up some of that snowfall, we'll be seeing that melting. So this is the snow just ahead of a warm front that's moving in. That's why we've got the situation where our temperature going up towards morning and then continuing to rise tomorrow. Now, the weather statement is for tomorrow night and then into Saturday. So rainfall amounts, yes, we have the potential to have over 45 millimeters. I think we'll be a little below that, though, through Windsor. Southwesterly winds, that's going to really pick the temperature up. But then the northwesterly winds, the door shuts, you know, as that cold front goes through, and then that's going to cool things back down again. So where is this corridor where you get to actually enjoy things? Well, how about into the dry slot tomorrow during the day? Now, it'd be lovely to have a little more sunshine, but we've got some gusty winds right now. Those will actually back off, so winds won't be too strong at this point through the day tomorrow. A few sunny breaks and a mild temperature above seasonal. That's your window. Then tomorrow night, the rain comes in heavy at times. Into Saturday morning, it backs off, but there'll still be a few showers in there, so do note that. And in terms of those amounts, see, I've got us closer to 30 to 35 millimeters for Windsor. Winds strong now, dying off, like I said, tomorrow. But watch out. When those kick back in into Saturday, we're really going to be seeing some very strong gusts through here, especially into Saturday afternoon. So the temperature tomorrow, there's that little, or overnight, that little change. Look at these highs for tomorrow. Try to enjoy that and get outside. And then Saturday, yeah, early we get to that 16, and then the temperature will be falling off, Katarina.
It really is a roller coaster. You mentioned that yesterday, and there it is.
Buckle up.
Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
All right, stay with us. We're going to go to commercial break, but we're going to have some more news updates for you in just a little bit. Starbucks workers at a store in Buffalo, New York have voted to form a union. Employees at a second Starbucks rejected the union option. And the National Labor Relations Board is still counting the votes at a third Buffalo location. If the board certifies the vote, it will be the first Starbucks-owned store in the U.S. to unionize. The company has been fighting the effort, saying it functions best when it works directly with the employees. And before we leave you, everybody loves a nice homecoming around the holidays, and that includes 5 harbor seals at the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Center. The seals were released back into their natural habitat on Wednesday. They were rescued as pups after they were found separated from their mothers. Volunteers at the center fed the seals bottled milk and taught them how to swim. They even taught them how to catch fish for when they were in the ocean once again on their own. Love a good rescue story like that. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can also find us on social media as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And once again, I want to mention our Sounds of the Season campaign. It's our annual charity drive. We accept donations through our website. Just go to cbc.ca/Windsor, look for that Sounds of the Season banner, and all of the information is there, and all of the proceeds, all of that money goes to local food banks, and we know that these have been really hard times and people really need all of the support. So let's get food to those who really need it, especially this time of year. So that's it from us. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.